What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, Pete's Carport. If you didn't see my last video, I introduced you guys to the new car to the channel, and one I'm super excited about, and that's a 1963 Austin HEALEY SPRITE. And this one is kind of race decked out. It's far from perfect, but it's going to be an awesome car to go through on this channel. Today we're going to be changing out the oil, checking all the fluids, and showing you guys some updates on how this car looks, drives, and what our future plans are. So stay tuned. I'm going to go ahead and back this out, and we're going to get it up in the air and start changing out the oil. Alright guys, so we got the car pulled in, we got it up on the ramps, which was fun. The car's so light that it didn't slide the ramps like the other vehicles I have do. But I still put it up on the jack. We do not have an e-brake that's hooked up. So I've got the car in gear. I'm going to be putting tons of shims behind it, extra protection so this car doesn't slide. It's not that heavy, but you still want to make sure it doesn't move. Now, onto the oil. Any car you look up, you're going to see tons and tons of debate on oil. The one thing that I found consistent on this specific motor, this is the 63, this is the 1100cc. In hot weather, you want to use 20W50. I'm not trying to go for brand or anything like that because I'm just doing a quick oil change. This will be changed out again. I went over to Advanced Auto. They had it in stock. They got me this filter same day. It was the last one they actually had in inventory. And we're just going to go ahead and swap those out, mainly due to the fact that when I got this car, I got under it, there really wasn't any engine oil leaks that I could see. And then the second day, when I took it for a long ride, I got back and there was oil all over the pan. Now I think some of it may be coming from that actual, the nut that holds into the oil pan, but most of it is coming from some kind of oil return line that I'll show you guys up front. And I'm going to have to get your guys' advice on where this goes. Maybe one of you guys out there knows. But I'm going to go ahead and get set up for the oil change, open the hood, show you guys where the filter is, and how we're going to go ahead and change everything, and then get your guys' advice on some of the other areas that I notice it's leaking from. Alright, so it looks like I might have just landed my first problem with the oil change. The oil filter, if you look right there, sorry it's getting dark out, a little cloudy because it's going to rain. Looks like a canister style one, and the one that I just got from the store is a drop-in canister style one. So I might have to go back and get this one particular, so I might need to take this off. Hopefully they have it or they can get it in, run down there and get that. But I wanted to show you guys this. So this is the line I'm talking about. It comes, if you look here below where your spark plugs are, down on the engine block there, there's a nut and a wire feed. Now this wire is basically burnt, and I cannot figure out for the life of me where this end could possibly go because I can't find any other piece of this wire. And I've been trying to guess, you know, since I've gotten the car where this goes, because it is leaking out of that and then down and then underneath. And also it could possibly be leaking from where it looks like another oil. This is an oil return hose here that comes down into where the oil filter goes. And I think that needs to be tightened up, or maybe it needs a new gasket down there. So that's what I'm dealing with right now. If any of you guys know what that part is there, where that line leads to, I would love to get that replaced and get it fixed and have it working properly and not leaking oil. Fill me in on the comments down below. One thing I did want to mention too, this car is very far from perfect. There's a lot of electrical things. It's going to take me quite some time to basically rewire a lot of this stuff. And just over the years, people have basically ran new wires, left old wires, some wires have burned. I want to get rid of all of the wires that are not functioning and make sure everything is tidied up, no electrical is open and showing. One other thing, and I planned on doing a video on this, but it was just too difficult to film. This is basically this is your cylinder here for your brake and your clutch, and the part that pumps in the clutch was actually snapped, so I was able to get a bolt in there and then have that pressed up against it, braced it, and JB welded it, and it's holding up very, very well. The gentleman before me actually just had a hose clamp around it, and it held up for him. And so it's part that I plan on replacing, but I wanted to be able to drive the car, move it around, and so forth. So let's get started on the oil change. I'll fill you guys in on the proper oil filter. I'll even put links below in case you guys have this car and you're looking to do it, how much oil goes in this, and I'd love to hear your discussion on oil type and so forth. If any of you guys have this car out there and know a lot about it, this is my first dive into this vehicle, so I'm going to go ahead and get set up. We're going to drain this nasty oil out. We're going to put some new oil in it and hopefully get this oil filter changed out. Alright guys, back from the store. I actually spoke to the previous owner, and he said that they did a oil filter conversion kit on this so that you can use a modern style oil filter, so I picked that up. Also picked up some RTV silicone so we can create a gasket, because they obviously didn't have the gasket in place on this piece here, so I had to remove the oil filter housing because the oil filter that was on here was on so tight that I was crushing it completely trying to get it off. Ended up having to poke it with a screwdriver and finally got it off. Figured let's go ahead and clean it down while I got it off, so I'm spraying it down with some brake cleaner, scrubbing it down with a brush, and wanted to fill you guys in also that some of my leaks I'm finding, some were coming from here actually, and then this obviously is your copper crush washer that is bad on the oil pan, so that was leaking from there. I'm going to be replacing those. I picked up a set of copper washers, so we're going to be replacing all of those on those and getting this all back in there. I also wanted to fill you guys in on I'm going to be adding some of the Lucas stabilizer, because it does contain a product that is very important for these cars. I even spoke to the owner and was looking online. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there's a product in there. I believe it has zinc in it. I'll fill you guys in on that in a little bit, but that is going to go in there as well. We're going to probably replace half of this at least, if not more, with some of the oil going in there. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and crank the oil filter back on, get that back in there, put the gasket sealer on there, and we'll get this whole thing back together today. Alright guys, so I got everything back in as far as bolts and the filter, so that's all down in there. We've got our brand new filter hooked up. Cleaned all that down. Hopefully we're going to eliminate most of these leaks. Also, I feel kind of stupid because I realized that this line right here is your oil pressure gauge, and that is one of the main reasons why I don't have an oil pressure gauge, is that has been burned off. So we're going to be buying a brand new oil pressure gauge, running all new lines for that. It is something I definitely want to have if I'm going to take this out and run it hard. And while I was waiting for the gasket to dry, I put on the red gasket. You got to put it on, slightly tighten it, and then when it dries after about 20 minutes, you can tighten it up. I changed out the spark plugs for new spark plugs, and these ones were really bad. My guess is they were getting very bad spark, so that should help us out on performance as well too. And the last thing we need to do now is get our oil in there. Of course, I searched online and found out how much oil goes in there, but I checked my dipstick before removing this oil, which is pretty black, and I decided to drain it out into this so I can actually mark it, measure it, and then pour that out and put my new oil in. That way I'm starting out at least where the old oil was. I did already fill up the oil filter, so that has been filled, so I'm not really losing out any there. So I'm going to go ahead and measure this out, fill it, and we'll go ahead and start her up and see how she runs. Alright guys, so I rolled her down off the ramps and checked the level, and we're looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and fire her up with the new plugs and new oil. Let's see how she sounds. And as you can see, she fired right up. Sounding a little bit more steady idle. I think those plugs were really shot. I'm gonna keep an eye on oil leaks. I'm gonna make sure I top off the oil because I think I can add a little bit more. I just wanted to get it to flow through the engine. And I'm gonna take it for a spin. Once again, my name's Pete. This is Pete's Carport. Thanks for joining in, guys. I hope you love the new car. This car is gonna be on the channel for a while. I did trade it out for the 200D, which I promised you guys we would be doing some rebuild on that. But the awesome thing is I am partnering with the guy I sold it to, and we're gonna do a shop and we're gonna share the build, so that will still be on the channel. But this one's gonna be one you see a lot more of. This is a 63 Austin Healey Sprite. Thanks again, guys. Thanks for joining in, and have a wonderful day.